this should kill it, which should give us 2 stacks since it's gonna break and kill. Yep, 2 stacks. There we go. Perfect. We just need 1 more now. Now Boothill should be able to get his last stack here, and then we can get started on showing his damage. But our break is 402%. Make me proud, Boothill. What's going on, everyone? Today we're gonna be taking a look at Boothill. This is gonna be a first look or first impression at his kit, his build, his team options, and we're also going to do a damage test to see his potential. But before we get into that, I have to say this was provided to us by Hoyoverse. This is the creator experience server, so that means things are subject to change for the launch of version 2.2. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump right in by looking at how cool he is. Like, this is everything I'd imagine a space cowboy would be, and then some. Oh, he's so cool. Anyways, let's jump into it. To start off, we're going to talk about Boothill's kit, and it's a little complicated to explain, so please bear with me. Essentially, when you're using Boothill, you're going to want to start by using his skill. His skill is going to enhance his basic attacks, and it's also going to enter the standoff state with whichever enemy you targeted. When you target that enemy and they're in the standoff state, they can only attack Boothill, and Boothill can only attack that enemy. Any enemy that attacks Boothill that's outside of that state will do decreased damage. And not only that, every time Boothill does weakness break or defeats an enemy while in that state, he is going to gain a stack up to 3, and each stack is going to increase his damage, and also it's going to give him energy for each stack. That's pretty much what his skill and talent does. Very complicated to explain, I know, I'm sorry, but his ultimate is pretty easy to understand. Essentially, it applies physical weakness to a single target enemy. It does damage that scales off of Boothill's attack, and it also delays their action. His technique is going to apply that physical weakness at the start of the battle to a single target enemy. And finally, he has a passive that scales off of break effect that increases his crit rate and crit damage, and there is a ceiling to that. So I think the ceiling is like 300%. Correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe it changes for the final release of version 2.2. For the build that I got, I went with 44 crit rate and 151 crit damage with 261 break, but that's not including the break that I'll get from like other stuff. I should also mention that you won't see that crit rate and crit damage reflect until we're in battle later on, and a break does not crit, but it doesn't hurt to have good crit ratio for your ultimate and regular attacks. All right, now we're going to talk about his light cone options, and of course we're going to start with his signature light cone, which is sailing towards a second life, which is not only going to increase his break effect by 60%, but it's also going to ignore 20% of the target's defense when doing break damage. And on top of that, he's going to gain 12% speed when he has 150 break effect or higher, which you should have because you're going to want to fully take advantage of that crit rate and crit damage passive. Other options that you could use are cruising in the stellar. If you save your currency from simulated universe, or if you already have it, you can toss this on them, and it's really easy to get to S5. Then there's Sleep Like the Dead. If you're patient enough and you don't spend all your gacha currency on wishes, you can get this instead, which is also good. And if for any reason you have In the Night just laying around, Seala's signature light cone, this also works. And if you don't have any of those 5 stars, which means you're probably still like early on into the game and you just started maybe, you can use Swordplay, Subscribe for More, and Final Victor. If you don't have those light cones, the final 2 light cones that I'd recommend are Return to Darkness and Only Silence Remains, if you don't have anything else, which is pretty much only Copium remains at that point. Now, as you can see, for Relics, I went with the 4-set Shooting Meteor, since as of version 2.2, this is going to be his best set, but do keep in mind that they will most likely add a set that is better for him. Other options you could use are a combination of Shooting Meteor and Watchmaker, or even Hacker Space, but I'd recommend running the break effect Relics if you can. And for ornaments, Banditry is going to be your best bet since it increases your break effect, and if you have 145 speed, then increase it even further by 20%. If you don't have that, technically could use Ferment Frontline or Rudolent. Now for the stats, I went with the crit damage chest, speed boots, physical damage orb, and break rope. But you could also use an attack chest, attack boots if you happen to have enough speed in your substats, or even an attack orb. I will say I did do a damage test between the 2 builds, and they did about the same damage. So just use whichever ones have the better substats. And the substats you're going to want to look out for are break, attack, speed, and it doesn't hurt to have crit. As for Eidolons, I will be covering each individual Eidolon on a separate video. We're going to be doing a damage showcase to show you exactly how much damage increase you'll get out of them. And if you're interested in that, make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for the next upload. Now, before we get to the damage test, we are going to take a quick look at Boothill's team options. And if you guys have any better ideas, please let us know down in the comments. I would love to hear them. But for this video, we are going to use Boothill with Harmony Trailblazer for the increased break effect, Rob May for the all-type resistance penetration and increased damage, and Gallagher for the increased increased break effect damage. Other characters you could use are, of course, Bronya for her buffs, Aventurine for the sustain and crit damage buff, Silverwolf for her debuffs, Wohol for the increased attack and energy, Pela for the defense debuff, and Fushuan is an excellent sustain character if you have her. Now, if you're limited on options, this is going to be the free-to-play team that I'd recommend to anyone that doesn't have that many characters to choose from. Asta, Lynx, and Harmony Trailblazer are free-to-play, so these are characters that you could use with a combination of Boothill. So we are going to be doing our damage test on difficulty 6 Swarm King, and if you remember, we had 44.8% crit rate and 151 crit damage, so let's see how much we get from the break. So that's going to put us up to 74.8% over 325, which is insane. But also keep in mind, we are getting an extra crit damage bonus from Carve the Moon, which Trailblazer is holding, but Trailblazer is also going to give us increased break effect, and we're also going to get increased break effect from Banditry since we have over 145 speed, and that's going to put us at almost 330%. So let's see how much damage this does. To give you an idea how we're going to do this damage test, essentially we're going to make sure that we have all of the buffs from our ultimates and passives from our supports, and we're going to make sure that we apply physical weakness with Boothill's ultimate and make sure that he has all of his stacks. So let's go ahead and get started by farming some energy and also making sure that nobody dies, because if anybody dies, we're gonna have to do this all over again, and that would suck. We're just gonna test out the damage, and that's it. We're not actually gonna kill him. All right, so we have 2 of our ultimates. We just need 2 more, and now it is spawning enemies that we can farm our stacks for. So this should kill it, which should give us 2 stacks since it's gonna break and kill. Yep, 2 stacks. There we go. Perfect. We just need 1 more now. Okay, so we have all of our ultimates, but we need 1 last stack from Boothill. Now, Boothill should be able to get his last stack here, and then we can get started on showing his damage. Let's go ahead and pop all these ults. So this is going to increase our break damage. This one is going to increase our all-type resistance penetration. Harmony MC is going to give us more break. And then, of course, Boothill's ultimate is going to apply physical weakness. Now that we have everything all set up and ready to go, let's just get to Boothill's turn, start our standoff. And before we attack, let's check his break. So his crit ratio is still 74.8 over 325, but that doesn't matter because we're going to break. But our break is 402%. That's crazy. We got to see how much damage this does. Come on. Make me proud, Boothill. 646k, not bad at all, especially considering that this is difficulty 6. All right, so Boothill, final thoughts. What do I think? I love his character design. He's everything I'd want from a space cowboy. His animations are crisp. Not only that, he's very fun to play, but I will say he is a very high investment character, not only for his build, but also his team. You're gonna want to make sure you get a lot of break, and trying to balance high break, high attack, and decent crit ratio is a little tough if I have to say so myself. But with that being said, I'll leave it up to you if he's worth pulling for. Just let me know in the comments, and keep an eye out for the E0 to E6 damage test that we will be doing on the next upload, and I'll see you next time. Peace.